So, hello, welcome to my back deck. Me, late morning, with my persistent cup of coffee. I am always so happy when my coffee somehow stays in my day until this time of morning. Brings me so much joy. So, I keeping it in my hands. It's a little hot right now to have hot coffee, but it feels delicious all the same. Mm. I just returned from a an event that I'm collaborating with a local business called Flex Thermal Lounge, and they are a contrast therapy business. And we did this little mini embodiment practice of sitting in the hot water and feeling into the body mind pieces and practicing what seems to be one of my favorite things to do, which is to help people reconnect to their emotional experiences and learn how to be with them in a way that moves them through the body versus ignoring them or leaving them kind of stuck and um, unfelt. So that's what we did. I had one woman show up, which was always enough. Doesn't matter if it's one or 20. We're trusting that in this 4 week series that we'll get another few people to show up. But we had a powerful, powerful hour together, this woman and I. And it just reminds me of the real importance of this work and how unpracticed so many of us are in really like noticing our body mind material and letting it be felt. It sounds so simple, and yet it's very subtly and not so subtly unpracticed in our culture. So just having the conversation about it, this woman was starting to notice like her whole body started to become soft and um opened to an emotional experience, and she was like actually like feeling emotional, and like tears were starting to flow just by talking and normalizing the avoidance that often gets chosen to emotion, and being able to have dialogue around that. Like just that created this like, oh my god, like I don't have to put on my armor, like I can just feel this and someone can validate that I'm feeling what I'm feeling. So we moved through these rounds of being in the hot water and tuning into a part of a place in the body that might be feeling some sort of an emotional experience that as a culture we have decided is too challenging to feel or is too uncomfortable to feel. So usually these fall into the realm of like anger or somewhere in the realm of anger, starting all the way from annoyance or irritation up to rage, or shame. Shame is a really tough one. I want to do more studying on shame, but I think shame is like the core of so much of our pain. Is the acknowledgement that it's even there is so uncomfortable. So we didn't tap into a ton of shame today. It was more in the categories of like sadness and grief and anger and rage. So we would notice where in her body, and I was doing the same for myself. That place was. This was after noticing where your center, her center, my center, and just really feeling a somatic connection. So for this person, hers was right here, kind of like upper belly, like center of her chest. It felt like this large kind of ball like soft sensation. And just being able to describe that and put that into words was like, ah, okay, I'm anchored here. And then from there, and using that as a resource, like an embodied resource to touch into while touching into these other places that were more challenging to notice and more challenging to feel. So, like, kind of playing back and forth with these two places. So, for her, the stress. So we talked about stress a lot and how for most of us it's like this unavoidable quality of life that we're just inundated by experiences that cause the body to go into a stress response. And so how do we work with that? And how do we first of all just like acknowledge that that's hard to avoid. And so it's a kind of a I don't know, a sunk cost that the body has to bear. And how do we support our body to actually still stay in this, ooh, the most flow, the most free, the most thriving feeling of embodied openness amidst the inundation of stress that we all feel through the urgency of life, through the busyness of life, through challenging conversations, either at work or at home, through the responsibilities of parenting. So many things that just create this like ongoing impact on not just the nervous system, but the biochemistry of our being, of our physiological being. So for her, she started noticing the stress up here in her kind of neck and shoulders. And as she was describing through descriptive words, so verbs are a beautiful way to acknowledge our body's experience. Saying a word that's an emotion is still kind of an abstract way of attuning to the body. So really putting language to it that's like, oh, it feels like a hot, um, tight string that's running from the inside of my neck about an inch deep down through my shoulders and then across all the way to the outside of my shoulders, kind of like that, like putting language to it in a way that gives it shape, it gives it temperature, it gives it dimensionality, like actual physical dimensionality, texture, location, as I was just saying up here in the neck and shoulders. So all of those things help the body feel like, oh my gosh, you're listening to me, you're acknowledging me. There's this experience is real. So feeling those feelings and then attunement to this biochemical experience that is being human, biochemical electrical experience. The way that we move these pieces through us is we can, like, acknowledging it can to some degree help to neutralize it. But for a lot of emotional energy, um, it actually wants to be shaped through movement and sound, or both. Movement, the combination of movement and sound, or one or the other. For me, they always go hand in hand. So we started to open up to this experience by, this is a really gentle way of doing it. Inhaling, on the exhale, just adding a little sound. And in that sound, it really connecting with, like, if this tension, if this tight, hot string in the neck and shoulders, if it could verbalize, if it could vocalize through your vocal cords, what would the sound be? So she would inhale, and we were doing this together, some in the hot water. Adding some sound on the exhale. That was a little bit more expressive because I'm really comfortable with this. But that's what we practiced for a while, continuing to connect back into center. And then the invitation was like, if you wanted to have a little bit more safety with the audible expression of this, to then submerge underwater and to express this energy through sound by going underwater and having a different medium, right? A substrate of water versus the substrate of air carries sound waves differently. So we would go underwater and express the sound underwater, and that was so cool. And when we would do it together, we could hear each other underwater. So we did a few rounds of that, and then we moved over into the cold plunge and we plunged together for about 2 3 minutes, and then we came back into the hot water and we did another round of expression in the hot water. And the second time we really started leaning into anger and rage, and we the discussion, there was a thread of kind of her personal situation going on through this whole hour together. And she got to share how she is aware that there's so much rage inside of her. And so we discussed the importance of validating that feeling and how we can shift our relationship to the emotions that we're having to be not so identified with what we think is our I, but just an experience that the body wants to have. And that as we give that experience movement through sound, through motion, that it actually frees up the energy. And that's how we stay feeling free in our body. This is embodied freedom. This is embodied aliveness. It's actually neutralizing our judgment. So, removing the perception of meaning of the anger, the rage, allowing our body to have that experience, and then feeling the liberation that comes through that by giving ourselves space to express. And then the other beautiful part of that is that as we give ourselves this space to express, we can return to center in a much clearer, calmer, grounder, more authentic way. And then we can choose from there to navigate from life without this tension of this emotional energy that really causes us to feel unstable in a lot of ways. It's like a very unstabilizing feeling to have an emotion that's living in the body from real time, or maybe from the accumulated past lived experience, because most of us have decades of unmet emotional material in our body because it's been so unnormalized for us to express. So say we're just like working with the real time, like you had a difficult conversation with a family member today. Like, how does that energy get moved through to give your body what it wants, which is the organism of us has no judgment, right? We create meaning and judgment from this different like higher level cognitive perception of our brain, but the actual organism of the body, it has a neutrality to the emotional experience. So if we can give ourselves some space, become the experiencer of the experience, really give our body mind the space to just have what it wants to have, which is just to feel. We are feeling machines. We're not machines, but we are feeling organisms that just want to feel. We have this sensory system like touch, taste, smell, sound, sight, um, and then all of the feelings of emotional energy in our body. We are designed to feel. And when we shut ourselves off to feeling, our body literally becomes numb to the experience of aliveness. So, this is such a huge thing. Like, I don't want to talk about this and make it seem like, oh, this is easy peasy. This is not. This is such an incremental expansion. And it takes time and it takes real deep compassion and grace and love for ourselves, because it can feel very awkward and it can actually trigger a lot of stuff. Because for most of us, there there were reasons from our attachment at birth to 6, 7, 8 years or whatever through our childhood that caused us to have a judgment, not knowingly, because we're not there, we're not thinking cognitively as kids like we do as adults, um, but no, not knowingly, um, uh, responsively, because that's all we are, especially as kids. We're just responsive creatures to our environment. But responsively, we shut down our impulses because being in the truth of our impulse actually risked connection and closeness with those who we depended on to be alive, our caregivers. So there's so much in this. It's like such a layered thing. And I don't want to talk about it in a way that sounds like it's simplistic, because it's really not. It's very complex. The practice itself is very simple, but what it might relate to in our lived experience as a complex psychological emotional being is very layered. So that final round, we got to be in this submerging place of our embodiment practice, and hearing the rage sounds, like the screaming kind of rageful anger expression under the water, and she and I would be doing it at the same time, was so rad and so beautiful. And I don't know if anyone here is in the Central Oregon, Bend, Oregon area, but we'll be doing these for 3 more Thursdays. And if it's something that we can get traction with, perhaps we'll continue to do it. Thursday mornings at Flex Thermal Lounge in Bend from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. The first 35-40 minutes is this embodiment practice, just tuning into our somatic experience, becoming emotional connoisseurs of our own body mind, becoming literate of our own body mind experience. This is a unique way of relating for us as individuals, in a customized way. The way that I relate to my body is going to be different than anyone else's body. And yet there is this overarching kind of practice of simply tuning in, noticing, and expressing and letting that energy move. So just that is a simple way of tuning the body is so great. If you can just even inhale, allow your body, allow your sounds to come through on your exhale. That's like a very safe way to express. So try that on. And then the next level would be to really give yourself a little bit more space to play with sound expression. I like to use pillows to help it feel safer for me and less awkward. I also want to name that this is something I've been doing for now almost 4 years. So it took me probably a year-ish to get really comfortable with doing this. So this isn't like oh, you just figure it out. Like I had to figure it out. It's and not figure from here, but I had to feel this experience and become practiced with it for it to become really comfortable for me. So, wherever you are in this journey with your own sound and movement expression of your emotional pieces, I see you and I honor you and I celebrate you for being curious about this. And I invite us all to just like slow down and notice a little bit more through the day. What is one thing that I can do in this little moment that I'm in my car, or in this little moment that I'm taking a shower, or in this little moment if I need to step into my bedroom and just have a minute to myself, like, what can I do that helps to like move something through some authentic peace through our body and help us feel more free? Because we all deserve that. We are all deserving and worthy of feeling free in our own. This is in this home of our own body. So thank you for being here. I'm grateful for you. And I look forward to tuning back in here again in 2 weeks for the next session of Growl. You can find more about me on my Substack or my website. I think those are all on my profile. And wishing you the most beautiful rest of your day.